So, I'm going to talk about a movie and a book. And then I'm going to work on my watermelon, which I accidentally, it got wet and then it started sinking in and stuff, and I was like, oh no. But I have more, so I'm going to blow up another one so you can see. So, this watermelon's going to be a little deformed, but you know, not all watermelons grow perfectly smoothly, whatever. Some have bumps, and you know, sometimes you'll buy a melon and it'll have settled on the ground and it's like flat on one side, whatever. It happens. And it doesn't make it any less watermelon, any less perfect. It's just not...
So it's a piñata, right?
Yep. So anyway, James is eating his scrambled eggs. I put the pepper there if you want pepper, but I still don't have any turmeric for our juice. I'll be drinking this. Mine has more ginger than, quite a bit more ginger than his, but his has dandelions in it, so, and mine does not. So it's red pointed peppers, and there's not too much dandelion in there.
Okay.
A little
It's
pigment
ginger
goes a
I'm
long
worried
way with.
about.
I didn't put much in it.
Good.
Yeah. I put a lot in mine. Now I probably have a red pepper smile. That's okay with me. So, this movie, The Korean, 2 guns, 1 man, a city full of assassins, no mercy. Terrible. It was very homemade. I think they shot it with the same kind of camera I use to make this vlog. Honestly, it was so bad. And I think they did it in one take, Ed Wood style. But not entertaining like Ed Wood. I mean, that has some comic value and whatever, but this, nothing like that. It's just bad. So nobody would enjoy watching that. Nothing good about it. The Perfect Predator. This book, bad. There's no reason to read this book. Okay, so I only have a page and a little bit of notes, and you will see not much information in that book, just based on my note. It's not worth reading. Just listen to my notes, you get the whole gist of the thing. Perfect Predator, a scientist race to save her husband from a deadly superbug, by Stephanie Strathdy and Thomas Patterson. And I have the feeling that this Thomas Patterson might be the actual writer of the book, and it's her story, but maybe he wrote for graphic novels or something before this, because it's really bad. Like, it's written like fiction, like bad fiction. Okay, I'll get into that. So, it's about phage treatment, virus used to kill superbug. And this freaks me out. I will explain why. Page 3. She's an infectious disease epidemiologist. She's got a Young Investigators Award, 1996 AIDS Conference. 25. London Soho District, which was one of the poorest in 1854, had hundreds and then thousands get cholera. City officials were deciding, oh, let's dump the poop in the Thames River. And the poorest people were getting knocked off. Anyway, this is so badly written. I give some examples here. Page 43. Khalid crept from the corner and explained my discomfort to the officer. That's a quote. These are quotes here. Suddenly, one of the doctors appeared, having been summoned by a nurse. 49. The operating theater doors burst open, and 2 women strode in. Both were over 6 feet tall and wearing Doc Martens boots that further established their commanding presence. 64. The words reverberated in my brain like a pinball machine. This book is too descriptive. So bad. It's not realistic. There's just too much in there that is
melodramatic.
Yeah, and not enough meat. So she referred to some Dr. Google information where she tried to find out more about Acinetobacter Bowmanii, which is what her husband had caught, and then he caught that in Egypt when they were on vacation. 96, they still had him on antibiotics, the doctor, even though he had a superbug, and that seems strange to me. They know the antibiotics won't cure it, yet they're running it through the system. 128, left unchecked, an estimated 10 million people were going to die from superbug infections by 2050. 150,000 people now die from superbug infections in the United States. Page 142, bacteriophages are viruses that eat bacteria. Then there are a bunch of holiday photos and pictures of the husband in the hospital and then in recovery. 157. A drop of water can have 1 trillion phages. Phages are the most numerous creatures on Earth. 181. He now had a fungus as well as the superbug. Anyway, 242. Another quote. I swallow, my membranes hungrily absorbing every droplet. Up ahead is a bog. The sphagnum moss hangs over trees with skeletal limbs. Seriously, the book is unreadable. Yet I got through it because I read everything. But you don't have to. So skip the book. So why am I so freaked out about these phages? These viruses that eat bacteria. Well, if you think about it, like I've just written a blog post about, really vaginal health. Anyway, it's about, I read this book about, it was entitled Heavy Flow, and it was about menstrual cycles, women's natural menstrual cycles. And it's amazing to think about how unnaturally women are living, and people in general, how unnaturally we're living today, and how what we are doing, which we don't even think about, which kills our probiotic bacteria. Now, a woman's vagina, for example, which I was just writing about, there are probiotic bacteria which live in the vaginal canal, and they keep the vagina from getting infections. They help produce fluid which lowers the pH, and I don't think anybody has really studied these things sufficiently to know exactly how they're helping cure infections. But if you think about it, there were a whole bunch of people getting contracting HIV. They were using spermicidal jelly, and it makes me wonder, what is this doing to the probiotic bacteria? And there are a lot of things that people do that will raise the pH when it's not supposed to be raised there, and possibly put themselves more at risk. So there's that, right? You need to have probiotic bacteria. They keep us alive, frankly. They keep us healthy. They keep us from getting infections. And if you reduce the populations of your good bacteria, then you get a whole bunch of bad bacteria will flourish in your system, which you don't want. They will make you unhealthy very fast. And okay, so if you think about it, right now, what people have acted irresponsibly, and this is most humans are not even aware of it. They really aren't even aware of probiotic bacteria, and we're being fed a whole bunch of misinformation about a whole bunch of things actually, and so it's hard to keep things straight. But if you keep researching, then you start realizing, wait, all of these things that are like we're unaware of how our food is grown, what we are being fed, how it's treated along the way, like even genetically produce that is not genetically modified then may have Roundup sprayed on it to be used as a desiccant, which then say it's on your grain and then it's made into flour. Well, then you have Roundup in the flour, which kills your probiotic bacteria. Freaky, right? So thinking about all this, and thinking about the fact that antibiotic use has been way too high. People have been living in a way that promotes infection, promotes people actually getting infections that they need to use antibiotics to treat. And then, and the livestock, it's crazy how much antibiotics are being used on livestock. And then we're reaching a point where now we have superbugs because the antibiotics have been misused and overused. And now what they're doing is this phage idea. This is not new. This is something that scientists were looking into, and then they decided, we better not do this, right? So they pulled back, and now we've been misusing the antibiotics, and now we're being forced, really, to look into this. Now, you have to wonder about when you have viruses that eat bacteria. You have to really think about it and think, now, how the superbugs arose is they adapted so that not only so that antibiotics wouldn't kill it, they adapted so that they could survive. Now these superbugs are now being, people are thinking, okay, well, let's use viruses to attack the superbugs. What happens when, are these viruses going to be specific to attacking that bacteria? Or are they going to decide to go after our probiotic bacteria too? We don't know, right? What are they going to do to survive? Because that's the thing. Life finds a way. It wants to survive. So now we're going to be using these viruses to eat the bacteria. What's going to happen to our health then? Right? You have to think about this.
The other issue is viruses mutate fast. They could mutate into something really, really nasty. Really, really quickly. Oh well.
So this is where we are today. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my watermill. So this piñata has now had 2 coats of paper mixed, and what I'm using to glue it together is just that flour. Remember, I had a bag of flour that had a big warning thing on the bag to wash your hands really carefully after using it, and wash the surface, and don't eat it when it's raw and all this stuff. And it's like, you know why? Well, I decided, okay, well, that isn't food. And what I'm doing is making piñatas with it. So I will wash my hands very thoroughly after I use it every time. And maybe I should buy or set up a pesticide storage unit in the yard so that I can store the flour in there, because it probably shouldn't be stored with my food because it has Roundup in it. You know it does. So anyway, but it works for piñatas. So I learned this when I was little. You don't need to, oftentimes when you're finding instructions on how to make a piñata, they'll use wallpaper paste to glue. You don't need to do that. You just mix it about pancake batter thick, the flour with the water, and stir, stir, stir. And then you take your shreds of paper that, I don't know, I like them about that wide and about that long, but you can have little tiny ones, or you can have thicker ones, whatever you like. So you take that and you put it through the mix, and then you put it all over you put it, and it's harder to put the second layer and the third layer unless you use different colors every time so you can see. But anyway, so but then you wait until it dries, and then you put another layer. Wait until it dries, put another layer, and that's how it goes. So since this one ended up all bumpy, I am going to make a few of these anyway. So another one of the condoms. I'm using the one Classic Select with the picture on it that says blow up, because I think that's funny. So I'm blowing them up. And oh, and I see there's lubricant on it. I did decide to wash it off. So once I take this, once I get this all blown up, then I will take it to the bathtub and give it a good washing. And then I will put the layers of stuff on it. That's big enough. Oh, I'm a little lightheaded now. That's a lot of air. So, yeah, it's amazing how big these things have grown up. They blow up like crazy. So you can make some good sized balloons out of these suckers. And great for a party, you know. You can, if you have a helium tank, well, you can always fill up. There's colored ones you can fill up, and isn't that pretty, you know? So what I'm doing is the reservoir tip, I decided will make a good stem for my watermelon. So what I'm going to do is, you see how I've kind of made it look a little bit like watermelon. It doesn't have to look perfect, because you'll work with it later, and you'll see. I will get it finished and eventually nice. So I'm going to take this bad boy into the bathtub and give him a good rubbing and get that lubricant off of him.